My name is David Giles. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Brooklyn Public Library. The Brooklyn Public Library has 62 locations in the borough. Every neighborhood in Brooklyn has a public library branch. And I guess the first thing to say about this issue for us and in Brooklyn is that the pandemic fundamentally altered and transformed the way that we go about helping people with digital-related issues and problems. We've been offering digital literacy programs for many years, decades. They've been enrichment programs for every age group, every demographic in Brooklyn. But since the pandemic, since we were closed for several months in 2020, and then partially closed even through parts of 2021, and when we saw people lined up outside of Brooklyn Public Library branches, getting the Wi-Fi bleeding through the windows, we realized how critical it was for us to help people get connected to the internet. So broadband equity and not just digital literacy became a big issue for us. In 2020, we started raising private funds to erect Wi-Fi antennas on every single library branch in Brooklyn, so that now every branch has a Wi-Fi antenna that projects Wi-Fi deeper into the community. We bought street furniture and worked with the DOT to start setting up outdoor libraries during the pandemic, and these continue, even though our doors are open now and people use them. And we also, when the EBB came rolling out, I believe was it 2021, we started getting into the business of helping people sign up for broadband subsidies. And at that time, we set up computer stations for people to access the EBB application online. And we've deepened that in the last year and a half or so with the ACP, the Affordable Connectivity Program. So this last fall, we launched a digital navigation program. We're calling it the Home Internet Access Program, that basically walks Brooklynites through the process of applying for the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is an onerous process for many people. For many people, it's fine. If you're on SSI or if you're on SNAP, in many cases, the system will verify that you qualify and give you a confirmation number pretty quickly. For many people, it's much more complicated than that. So we have computer stations up in the branches, and we have navigators who help people upload their IDs into the USAC system, upload their enrollment letters or report cards from their DOE school into the system. In some cases, we have to call USAC and ask what the issues are for people when it's asking for more information. We've opened a hotline for anybody to call to ask questions about the USAC, about the ACP benefit. So this has become a big issue. Broadband equity has become an issue that, for us, that it hasn't been in the past. And then one more thing I'd like to say about the pandemic is for us, since the pandemic, since we're still grappling with the immense results of the pandemic and the need people have to get online and access services online, we started referencing a distinction in the kinds of support that we provide to people in Brooklyn. And I guess one way to talk about that is we live in the age of compulsory computing. So we've served people who are motivated to learn and to gain more skills, digital literacy skills. People who want to make themselves more marketable in the jobs marketplace. People who want to learn more or just interested in learning more about robotics or digital media or Zoom or any of these things. We've served those people pretty well. But more and more, we're having people come in to libraries, and basically they want task-oriented support. They have a problem right now that they need help with, right? So these are folks that aren't always wanting to sign up for a program, and they need help now. And we're, every library across the city really Any branch that's open is every day fielding these sorts of questions. And so it's important, I have 30 seconds left, it's important that the doors of the library are open, that our branches are staffed, and that these people are available for our neighbors to ask these sorts of questions and get this kind of support every day. So with that, I will pass the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jin Hyun Bae. I am Digital Literacy Coordinator at Queen's Public Library. And I'm so grateful to be here to see so many familiar faces that I haven't seen since before the pandemic, as well as new faces. It's always a good sign when you see new faces. That means that the movement is building and that there's more and more interest in the work that we are doing. So Queen's Public Library serves 2.5 million people living in Queens. We have 66 locations, and we serve everyone who walks through our doors, who connects to our internet, who comes to our virtual programming. And I won't go too much into what David has mentioned. We do all of these things that support our customers. Our job, the way we see it, is to help people maximize the resources that they have available to them, to really find a new job if that's what they want to do, to learn a new language, learn English, whatever skills they need to do, to really foster a positive connection with lifelong learning. And just to highlight a few programs that we have happening right now, we have Queens Connected, which is a program that, in a slightly different way, is attempting to bridge the digital divide and specifically broadband access. We have thousands of Wi-Fi hotspots that are being loaned out at 25 locations that have been selected based on broadband adoption rates, device availability in households, as well as other factors such as whether their location is near NYCHA housing. In addition to that, within Queens Connected, we have laptops to loan, and that is expanding as well. One thing I'd like to say around that, just a number, hopefully that will give you a sense of how this is really important for a lot of people, is that we have around 3,000 hotspots. That's not that many. And there is a real demand for it. I get, I think the numbers currently, circulation numbers, including the lending as well as renewals, currently it's close to 9,000. So 9,000 times people have borrowed or renewed hotspots. And with the addition of laptops, we're going to see that number increase as well. The numbers you might think are low, but or high, depending on where your anchor is. But I can tell you that it is pretty high just because the way that we have this set up is people can borrow hotspots for 2 months and then have up to optional 5 times renewal, allowing them to keep the hotspot for up to a year. Another example to think of it, just kind of to help you picture how libraries are really important in terms of in the ecosystem and how we are a good access point for so many services and things, is just think about a young mother who wants to apply for a job, and this mother has a child. They don't have childcare. One thing they can do is come to the library and get the help they need. The child can be entertained by story time in the morning. The mother can go to the public computing labs and work on their resume. If they're not sure what to put on their resume, or even if they're not sure about how to find a job, there are library staff who can help with that. And I really want to say that even if you are not a young mother, it is actually pretty hard. I'm pretty sure every one of us has tried to apply for a job or something online, and it is a bit of a trial to do all of those things. So it's worth mentioning again.
Thank you, Regine, and thank you, colleagues, for being here, collaborators, and thank you, ConnectALL and Silicon Harlem for hosting. I'm from Make the Road, New York. We are an immigrant and community organizing organization with 25,000 members and offices in Staten Island, Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn, and Westchester, and 25,000 members and counting. And many are from immigrant Spanish-speaking communities in Latin America. We build the power of the immigrant and working class community to achieve dignity and justice. And we do that through organizing. We do that through policy work. And we offer survival services such as the adult literacy classes that we have. And many folks come to our offices for English classes, citizenship classes, help with career pathways, and digital literacy classes. But they stay because we have our teachers create the environment where they can be themselves and express themselves and other parts of their identity and work together in civic engagement. I'm going to focus on the digital equity part of the work. We have also been doing digital equity work, digital literacy for many years, but of course the pandemic was one of those times that we all kind of had to scramble to get, people to take online classes. We had to get people to figure out how to get their appointments for their legal services online, health, the health insurance, all of those government services, and trying to get government services because of your documented status. We had to figure all that out. And we did that with the help of our first digital literacy and navigation Vista member, Denise Camarillo Cruz, who is here. And we recruited a bunch of volunteers to help with the task of getting people online and the services that they need. We also ran in 2022 a survey to find out deeper about the needs of the community. And we found out that I think more than half of people did not have a laptop or a PC. And now, a year later, I think the other half were counting their kids' computers that they don't use, or they have to give back, or they just don't know how to use them. We also found out that people lack the basic literacy and even the vocabulary to speak about computers, to help their kids, to get government services, to speak to their immigration lawyers or officers, and protect themselves from cyber attacks, which is really, really important. They don't even know how to create, update or install an antivirus software. So we have been addressing that with classes, and we have been working with organizations to review and test their materials. We have been looking at North Star for assessment, their Spanish materials. And ultimately, we realized that we need to create our own tools to serve the unique needs of our very specific community, which is very often forgotten. So and I mentioned that because as we're designing solutions, I want to make sure that I say this out there. When it comes to digital equity, not one size fits all. There is not one size fits all solution. And so we need the space and the funding to expand on our own materials, our own assessments, and to be able to collaborate and share with each other these materials and assessments. We want to continue the work. We want to expand the work. We want to make sure that we have what we need. We need to create compensated internships in the community. We need to hire additional support. We need devices that are working for our communities to teach and to use. We also need the freedom to have very flexible outcomes and also outcomes that are fitting to our community. Again, not one size fits all. I want to be clear also, since NTIA is here, we need you to reassure us that if I refer a person to you, to the ACP program, that their information is not going to be shared with anti-immigrant agencies such as ICE. Okay? That said, thank you. That said, I hope that this is really truly shaping the conversation and that a substantial amount of money goes towards digital literacy and navigation programs as opposed to primarily on internet access, which is also really important. But our needs are also, their needs are significant, not one size fits all. Thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to passing it on.
Thank you, Monica. And thank you for stealing my talking point, because I was going to start with the one size doesn't fit all. No, this is perfect. Thank you. So thank you to the folks that organized the event. Thank you, Jolie, for organizing all the tech and keeping us all communicating effectively, which is magnificent. My name's Tom Camber. I'm the Executive Director of Older Adults Technology Services. Most people call us OATS, and we're affiliated with AARP, so now we're OATS from AARP. And we run all these free programs for older adults around the country. They're called Senior Planet, so you may have heard of us as Senior Planet. It occurs to me sitting in this chair that I've been doing this work now for 30 years, and which is crazy, right? When I was in my 24 years old, I worked on a project called the Technology Opportunities Program, which was from Commerce, and nobody had the internet at home, so they funded community technology centers. There was one here in Harlem called Playing to Win, some people may recall. Rasan Harris, who was their director, is still working in the nonprofit sector here. And I remember wiring low-income housing co-ops up here in Harlem for computers in the Tenants Association offices, and they were funded by Commerce, and we were trying to get people online. So there's this kind of early era of community technology centers. There's a whole movement around it, and that sort of evolved into a second generation, which happened with the BTOP program, which is Broadband Technology Opportunities Program. Wendy knows that one well. A lot of folks in this room worked on that program, and OATS was fortunate enough to receive a grant through what they call BTOP program. And I had started OATS in 2004, really trying to get at that challenge of what's going on with older adults who are having such a hard time with technology, and how do we build programs that can help them overcome those barriers and get online? And back then, it was in Bedford-Stuyvesant. That was our first site, the Shabazz Complex on Gates Avenue. And I sat with the Tenants Association directors and said, what do we need to do to get people online? What kind of training, what kind of support, what kind of devices do you want to use? And people helped me write a curriculum, which today everybody would call co-design. But back then we didn't have fancy terms. It was just like people with a notebook. But we wrote the first senior focused tech training that was built with older adults in mind, and started teaching it first in Brooklyn, and then up here in Harlem. We were at the over here at Carnetta Clark was working with us in West Harlem. Now we're over here at A. Philip Randolph, for those of you who know that in this neighborhood, one of the best sites that we have in the whole country. And we built this program and this training for older adults. One size does not fit all. To fit all, it turns out, if you work with constituencies, everybody has a lens or a point of view into the technology. So what we learned just organically was, if you work with people and you design a program that's perfectly tuned to what they need, it will evolve, but it can really help you build up some momentum. And so OATS started at that one location. Soon enough, we were at about 10 or 15 locations. When BTOP happened, we started our first ever center, the Senior Planet Center, which is still running on 25th Street today. It's part of the Connected Communities program that was referenced earlier. And we have been providing our programs free of charge for older adults since day one. This last year, we taught 350,000 people how to use technology around the country. And I will say that New York is the home and the epicenter of all this stuff. It's where all the real action is. And everywhere I go, people are like, what's going on in New York? They gave away all these tablets in NYCHA, and they're doing all this cool stuff with, Make the Road and these different programs, the library systems, like leaps ahead of where a lot of places are. So they're looking to learn from us and get we're kind of a beacon of innovation around this stuff. And it's been really amazing. John Paul Farmer's here now, who helped us with the project when, and I'll finish up real quick because I know we're running low on time here. But when COVID happened, the mayor's office called up and said, we want to give away 10,000 tablets in the housing to residents of public housing. How many people can we train? We put together a program, and we launched for us the first ever online training program, which we'd never done before. We were up all night trying to figure out, how do you do a call center? People were getting boxes at their door, and they were like, what is in this box? And then we would call them that day and say, did you get a box? And they'd say, yeah. We'd open it up, and we would talk them through unboxing. Push this button, it should turn on. And then we offered people training. We were able to work with all 10,000 people, but only 2,500 of them took the training, which is fine, right? Some people have their family members. They already know some things. What we got from the 25% though was we had a control group. So we brought in Cornell University and we studied the impact of what we were doing. And that kind of brings me to what this stage 3 is, which is now we're in this sort of new era of broadband inclusion and digital inclusion work. These organizations that have expertise with constituencies, immigrants, ex-offenders, LGBT folks, younger people who maybe were looking for homework help, senior citizens, each of those those constituencies now has mature, engaged partners that are developing strategies. And so we were working with the city to learn what comes of these trainings. We found that if people take a class and they get online, they are twice as likely to make a new friend and twice as likely to build their social networks than folks that didn't take a class. Well, that's kind of a big deal, right? How much do you value a friend or building up new contact, especially for older people who their priority is often how do you rebuild your social network? So we're working with the state now as as the regional partner, I guess, helping with the listening sessions here in New York. We're also part of AARP, so we're actually using these models around the country to have digital inclusion programs that include older adults. We partner with other nonprofits, with libraries. We have 260 partners around the country. And we partner a lot with the private sector groups, with the Verizons and the T-Mobiles, and those they're critical resources as we try to solve these problems. So looking for your suggestions, your ideas, and happy to share today. And also super honored to be sharing this panel. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is TJ Woods, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Associate Director of Technology Training Programs for the New York Public Library. We are also known as Tech Connect. Thanks. Well, it was such a warm room. Family in the house. We have 88 branches that we serve, over 100 class topics. We offer classes in person and online in Mandarin, English, and Spanish. Classes start at 10:30 a.m. They end at 8 p.m., and we offer them 6 days a week. It is love that we serve every day. We have studios in Manhattan and in the Bronx. We want to make sure people are able to tell their story. It's so important when you think about the unhoused and wanting to get involved civically, but productively. We create a space for that, a space for community. We have lovely events like the Tech Fair where people get to be exposed to emerging technology. They come in, they're looking for careers. They can be pushed into our career services department, our social workers. We have so many cool things at the library. I was very surprised when I joined the team. This work can't be done without accurate assessments and funding from the community. So we bring people in to have focus groups. We want to know what they need next. When you think about prohibitively expensive software like Adobe Creative Cloud, it's $1,000, right? How do we make sure people have access to that so that there aren't two tiers of creatives out there, especially in New York, where you can really make good money, right? So we have computers set out where people can renew their time there indefinitely as long as no one else has a reservation on it, and then they get to produce what they like from the studio. It's an editing bay. Come see us, right? We're doing really transformative work, and I'm excited for all the new things we'll get to do in the future. And I'm here today to just troubleshoot and share more about the good stuff that we got going on. Megan?
So I know we ran out of time, and initially we were going to have a conversation and questions with you all, but the point is you heard from folks who are the leading edge, the ground game, the community partners. And so critically, the takeaway here is that for New York State, as you're thinking about the digital equity plan, the expertise is in the room, and it's in our neighbors, it's in our communities, it's with the folks here, the solutions are here. The relationships are here. So just so humbled to be with you in this work and really appreciate you taking time to be with us today.
Thank all of you. Thank you, Megan. Now get off my stage. No, I'm just kidding. We have a great opportunity right now to one of the great electives in our city. Previous was the Manhattan Borough President. Anybody know who that was? Let's bring her up. Gail Brewer, come on up here. Say a few words, if you don't mind. Right after Gail, we're going to be talking about the lightning talks. Right after Gail, we're doing the lightning talks. My favorite person of all.
Thank you very much. I was there when Silicon Harlem started, and so I'm a big fan, and it's really wonderful to see you, and I don't know half as much as what you know in the audience. But couple of things, just in terms of how I see current, and obviously there's so much history here. But we all want connectivity, municipal Wi-Fi available for everyone. That's the goal. I remember we used to try to do it, in the 90s, 2000s, and we had 3 or 4 false starts, and we still don't have it. I do not think that putting 5G kiosks everywhere or Link NYC gets us very far. I used to joke and said, do I need to have a contract for the sofa or the chair that would sit next to it? Because it's just not what I consider citywide municipal free Wi-Fi. And half of my community doesn't want those goddamn 5G tall things in their neighborhoods. So, okay, but that's not it. I do think that the panel that you just heard from Oates and the library and the nonprofit organizations is really the way to go, where you have people locally in the community working on municipal Wi-Fi. NYCHA has, under this mayor, worked with, particularly with Spectrum. I do know people, and there are people in the room who know that if you have this Apple program or whatever the hell it's called, then you can get pretty good dollar on Spectrum. If you have Fios, understandably, for whatever reason, the folks at Verizon don't want to do it. So I don't know if it's working. There are people who I know who have Spectrum and they love it, but I don't know how well it's publicized, and I don't know if it works, and there are always a challenge with everything. I do say from the pandemic, when I talk to doctors in the community who are really working in the community, telehealth is what changed everything. So whether it's telehealth for seniors, telehealth for families, and so it's one more reason that we absolutely have to have the kind of connectivity that is real and not made up. So that's important. And the schools, I can tell you, despite, every 5 years you need all new equipment. It mostly comes from the city council or others that are working on what we call Reso A. It doesn't happen every 5 years. The schools are, in many cases, way behind unless they're a parents association or special grants that the principals are smart enough to get. So don't think that the schools all have great technology, because they don't. And of course, with the seniors, Oates is the key to everything. I know that the City Council's Technology Committee did pass some bills that talk about having navigators and support in the community. But if I had my way, I would have funding at 311 so that if a senior calls 311 and he or she cannot figure out what to do, 311 would help them, and you or Oates would be on the other end of the line, not 311. But that hasn't happened. That's what I asked. It has not happened. But that's what we want for the seniors. I will also say, in terms of the libraries and the schools, my understanding is the folks in Washington, the FCC, won't do it, although it is still being discussed. I went to Washington, I testified years ago, I was told no. E-rate to bleed out into the neighborhood. Because then if E-rate bleeds out into the neighborhood, then small businesses and others, residents, could get that kind of support. That would be really important. Something interesting about the asylums. I'm in all the hotels. I go constantly, both to the HERCs and the DHSs. Not one person has asked for a phone. The city seems to have 1 million phones. I don't know, they seem to have them in a warehouse or something. Not one person has asked for them. Every single person who is coming across the border or in a plane has a phone. And they're using it for translation as well as for the other aspects of trying to figure out the world of New York City, whether it's jobs or benefits. Everything is legal or illegal. As the mayor said, I said, I don't care whether they get a legal or illegal job. And the mayor said, I agree with Gail Brewer. The other issue, of course, is just how do you deal with the small businesses in general? It was very interesting during the pandemic. I was borough president. The downtown bids, send out an email, everybody got it. The uptown, you had to go door to door to door to get information that was so important to their survival. So we still have a huge digital divide. We have a big language issue. Every single day there's a new manager, and often speaking many different languages, so we are not completely technology savvy in terms of the businesses. I will also say, and I don't know if Al Leidner's here, but he's one of my heroes also. He and his partner, Wendy, are doing the amazing underground work, as I call it. There are people here who know more about it than I do, but basically he has a grant from the feds to working with NYU. They're going to be doing what we dreamed about for years, which is to know what the hell is under the streets. And then that will help us figure out what should be above the streets. It's been something that's been worked on for 20, 25 years. It is happening. And if Al Leidner's doing it, Wendy's doing it, you know it's going to go well. We're also concerned about facial recognition. I'm not a big fan of facial recognition. Maybe there are people in the room who are, but the low-income communities call me because it doesn't work. There's differences as to who gets profiled and who doesn't, et cetera. So I would say just be very, very careful of supporting facial recognition. I'm interested in what happens with the franchise agreements. People don't understand that, as time comes up, Verizon, Spectrum, et cetera, they have to work with the city when they go underground. And, since nobody's doing cable, I have a television. I bet nobody else here has a television. I'm the only one in the room with a television. But when you have no televisions, then this franchise agreement, which is based on the subscriptions to the cable, that's not going to go too well in terms of the money. The city relies on it, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and the other public access channels. I love those public access channels. I want them to survive. Something to think about in terms of the community. I know their lawyers are here. And then just finally, I am the author of the Open Data Bill. I think that it works, and Beta NYC translated it for us. Thank you, Noel and company. But I would say that we still have to work on that, both for making sure that it's up to date and that it's easy to read, because Beta NYC helps, but it should be a little bit more available to people. And we're all trying to use all of this technology to make sure that schools, jobs, healthcare, seniors, families, low income, NYCHA have access. And it's really a challenge. We've been working on it. It's getting better. But without you and Silicon Harlem, we'd be nowhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail Brewer. An awesome, awesome person for our beautiful city here. I definitely want to acknowledge the fact that we're moving right into the lightning round. Josh, are you going to come up here and navigate that? So we're going to do that. Right after that, we're doing the breakouts and food. Somebody heard that, right? Food is coming up. So we got that coming up as well. So, Josh?
Okay, so we're going to keep it moving. We have an order that we're going to go in. I think we used a very complicated AI-powered algorithm to select the order. Tanaya, we pulled from a hat, right? That was the way we did it. But I want to say, really appreciate all of these internet service providers that are working to bring internet service to New Yorkers in a variety of ways, being here today, and all the work they do every single day across the city. We gave them, we're going to be 3 minutes each, and we're going to move it quickly. But here's the thing that I want to say about this, and where we talked and planned with them. They're not here to sell a product, right? The goal of what they're talking about is how they approach partnerships, because ultimately, when we're getting people online, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take partnerships. So each one of them is going to talk about how they approach, that kind of work. I will run the timer to try and again keep it moving, and ask them to come up to the stage in order. And again, just really appreciate each one of them being here today. And I'm just going to say that their company name and allow them to introduce themselves and the work that they do and how they approach the potential for partnerships. Let's start with Starry.
Vertically challenged. Hi, everyone. I'm Madeline St. Ange. I'm the Director of Government Affairs and Strategic Advancement at Starry. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are an internet service provider who operates across New York City, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. We're also available across 4 other markets in the United States. That includes Boston, DC, Denver, and Los Angeles. Overall, just a quick overview on a company, and take a look at the slide up there too. We're founded on the belief that everyone deserves access to affordable and high quality internet no matter where they live. Our goal is to delight our customers, and we do this through things like offering simple and transparent pricing and high-speed plans, unlimited data, and excellent 24/7 customer support for all of our subscribers. We launched our service in New York City in 2018. And that same year, we also launched our digital equity program, Starry Connect, which offers ultra low cost, low barrier broadband options specifically for families living in public and affordable housing communities. When we kind of started to shape this program, we saw that in our urban areas, primarily where we're providing service, the digital divide disproportionately affected families primarily living in subsidized housing. So we intentionally focused our program on serving that portion of the population to have the greatest impact. Instead of requiring residents to go through individual eligibility requirements to qualify for our low-cost plan, we just partner directly with public and affordable housing owners to offer it across their entire community. And kind of I think that's really important just in terms of how we build trust across these communities. It's really about breaking down some of those barriers that traditionally prevented them from gaining access in the past. The majority of these communities that we work in they range from low to middle income communities, and the spectrum of things that residents are worried about home broadband can often be pretty low on the list when you're thinking about things that they deal with, like food insecurity, health and safety issues, financial insecurity, and a myriad of other challenges. And, of course, broadband can be a great asset to helping with those challenges. It's often, if it's too difficult to gain affordable access, it often falls by the wayside. So really, that's kind of our first layer in terms of dealing with how to build trust across these communities. And then the second piece is just really putting in the work. Our team makes it if you can go to the next slide, it kind of highlight some of this work, but our team makes it a priority to forge very strong relationships with all of our public housing and affordable housing partners, from the property ownership to the tenant leadership to each resident in the community. We're a very collaborative and engaged partner. And in many cases, you can say that a sorry employee is a friendly and familiar face in these communities. It's also how we identify other ways that we can support these communities. You'll see there that we've done initiatives like hosting back to school drives, doing food drives, sponsoring scholarship dinners, and partnering with other organizations like Microsoft and everyone on to support device access and digital literacy and education sessions within these communities. So I think that our kind of whole community approach to working across these communities is really important in help building that trust, and that trust helps increase broadband adoption and adoption of government programs like the ACP. So that's sort of the linchpin of how we approach our work across our public and affordable housing communities that we serve. And with that, I'll head over to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you, Maddie. Again, that they give that's the qualification for having the job of running the ConnectALL program is being willing to, move ISPs along. But there's so much to share. Let's go to People's Choice Communications.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for allowing me a chance to speak. Thank you, Mr. Banks, also for giving me the invitation. So our company, to briefly go over it, we are a group of IBEW Local 3 members, worked for the cable company Time Warner Cable before Spectrum took over. When Spectrum took over, the workforce ended up going on strike. So the striking workers figured we had to do something different to try to turn things around. So we decided to come up with a plan. As union members do, we banded together and we put together a business plan. The business plan was to have a municipal option where the city could own the cable system. We presented that to elected officials. They liked the plan, but nobody actually took it and moved forward with it. So you said, you know what, we're union workers, let's go to work. We decided to move forward with the plan anyway. So the next phase was People's Choice Communications. The idea was we already know how to build the system. The customers want something different. So let's join together and rebuild the system we built again, this time having the workers and the owners, workers and the customers as the owners of the system. So in doing that, I think it was the 30th year of the strike that the pandemic hit more heavily. And now it was highlighted even more of how many people were without service. So building out these systems, we were able to start building in the most affected areas, which was public housing, affordable housing, supportive housing. And what picked up and what we were doing were things like Forbes magazine picked up and said we were able to provide service cheaper than tap water. The reason we were doing this is because our prices were so low. The emergency broadband benefit at the time, we were able to utilize this and able to provide free service for the residents there and continue to build out on that program, utilizing those funds. The goal of our company is to be able to reinvest the money that people would normally spend on their bills back into the same communities we serve. If we can do that, we can start to create a socioeconomic change where the money coming in is not just a one-time effect. It kind of re-energizes and feeds the community back over and over again. So you can look at some of the work that we've done throughout large portions of the Bronx, up in Manhattan. If you can go to the next one. We were able to utilize the ACP benefit and create a custom API where we were able to streamline the process and help people get online more smoothly through the process, and also give them $11 laptops, a service that's not utilized as often, but we know our people needed it. We will also be able to fast forward one of our programs and hire people from the communities we're serving, creating a digital stewardship program so that people there can actually work in the system that they build, and that could kind of start that ecosystem. So where we started was from a place where people said that we weren't going to be able to do what we did, and we did it. Where we are now is to try to expand and continue to build and move this forward. As we talk about billions of dollars that are about to come down from the state to feed this, the question is, what are we going to do and how are we going to do this? And the way I see it is, when you're talking about billions of dollars, I don't know if everybody ever heard the expression of teach a man to fish. So kind of that, when you're talking about billions of dollars, you're not really doing a fish, you're doing more like a full lobster dinner. So if it's us sitting at the table, I think we understand better of how it is, how it works. We will take that lobster dinner and say, you know what, given money you're gonna use for that lobster dinner, we're gonna go down the block and get some whitings to make sure the entire family can eat, because we need to eat. We're gonna take that extra money. We know somebody on the block who used to be a fisherman and get a fisher boat. And with that money, we're gonna make sure everybody can continue eating, use the extra money, and we'll buy a lobster boat. Now the people that have to buy lobsters all the time, we can feed them, and we have enough money that we can make lobster flakes and sprinkle it on all our food if I want.
All right. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Troy. Next, we're going to hear from Altice.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Thank you, ConnectALL. All that lobster talk. I'm a little hungry. Good afternoon. My name's Chris Breslin. I'm Senior Director of Government Affairs at Altice USA. Just a brief background about Altice. Through our brand Optimum, we offer video, broadband, mobile services to over 1.5 million New York City residents and businesses across Brooklyn and the Bronx. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about how Altice, as an ISP serving New York City, is working to build trust with underserved residents and break down barriers to broadband adoption. A central part of ISPs building trust with customers is understanding and meeting the needs. We have found that customers want to stay continuously connected. They want fast and reliable service. And they want obtaining services to be as seamless as possible. By addressing affordability, forming public-private partnerships, and working with community partners, we can address and close gaps in broadband adoption. Affordability is at the center of getting underserved residents connected to the internet and keeping them connected. Customers experience financial difficulties, will often disconnect their broadband subscription, leaving families without a critical resource. That's why we're participating in public-private partnerships like Big Apple Connect, which provides residents of NYCHA with free, high-speed broadband. This baseline broadband connection provides NYCHA residents with uninterrupted connectivity. There are many other barriers other than affordability, however. Making it easy for underserved New Yorkers to participate in broadband programs is essential. Big Apple Connect streamlines sign up for services, only requiring residents to opt in. We provide on-site installations and a dedicated service line. We also partner with the city to connect family homeless shelters during the pandemic so that students could participate in remote learning. Shelter residents did not need to contact us, provided service directly to 7,000 units at more than 140 New York City family homeless shelters. All of our customers want a fast and reliable service that their families can count on at a great value. Over the past several years, we've been investing in our network with our fiber to the home network across New York. This network will deliver symmetrical multi-gig broadband services to homes and businesses. We recognize the need to provide high-speed broadband to meet the next generation's needs. We understand that closing the digital divide requires a holistic approach using the synergy of government, ISPs, and community organizations to effectively get residents connected and to remain connected. We have partnerships with community organizations across our footprint who have established trust with residents to provide digital literacy resources and broadband assistance. As ConnectALL develops their digital equity plan, we encourage funding to support public-private partnerships like Big Apple Connect across the state, as well as funding for trusted community partners that provide digital navigator services and digital literacy services to eligible populations. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to participate in today's listening session and look forward to continuing to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And now we'll hear from Exchange.
Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. You see Skywire up there. You're going to be the first to see our new logo. Exchange Telecom, I'm Doug Turtz, I'm the CEO, has been around in New York for 20 years. And we think about things, I think, a little bit differently from the perspective of infrastructure and coverage. We are very much a local company. Our executives are here, our call centers are here, our staging is here. When we go out into community, we reach out to local leaders, to the community leaders, and we want to partner side by side with them to figure out where those gaps exist. We want to talk to New York City and talk to the residents about where the missing areas of connectivity are, and we want to fill them in. We then, of course, have all the programs like ACP, where we do staging, training, have people that speak multiple languages in our call centers with our headquarters in Brooklyn, new office that we're opening in Manhattan as we continue to expand out in the footprint here. We have 25,000 residents. And if you look back to the history of 2002 when Exchange started, it was predicated on underserved and digital deserts. We don't like to say digital deserts anymore because we do think there's some level of connectivity with the great people that are here talking to you tonight. But the question is, how do you make it even stronger? So we look at these zones, we use a lot of combination of fiber and fixed wireless to bring connectivity as far out, as fast out, and as reliably out to our constituents and to our users of our service. In doing so, we believe that this is the kind of connectivity that can be turned up very quickly. The equipment vendors that we have, who we partner with, are lockstep with us in figuring out where we can go next. And that is what we like to do. So we are in the process right now of zoning out all of New York and New York Metro. And I know we've talked today, we have someone from New Jersey here where I grew up, which is great because we're looking at our next expansion across the river because we want to bring this same density and this same feeling to the people that we have where we've turned up Jersey City, we're turning up Newark right now. So these are the places we will serve next as we continue to densify in and edge out. It's really an exciting time. Skywire is a name because we also do business. And the reason I mention that is because our business services are what predicated the resiliency and redundancy within our network. That same network now has been morphed together as we've become one unified company, and that brings that same service out to the residential customers. We learned during COVID that you can be home, you could be at work, you can be hybrid, and having something that affords that same experience is really something our customers appreciate, and we appreciate our customers and the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Now we'll hear from Flume.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Prashant, the CEO and co-founder of Flume Internet, and we are a last-mile fiber-to-the-home ISP here in New York. Flume generally uses unused fiber cables or open access networks to deliver fiber to homes across New York City and other cities across the US. We believe that with the new impending infrastructure build, over 20 million homes will be enabled with such open access or unused wholesale fiber opportunities over the next 7 to 10 years. And we see that there's an abundance of fiber in certain areas in New York City and other areas where we will be using our own fiber franchise to build out services. We are a locally based, diverse team who's passionate and has years of industry experience building out fiber in cities across the country. Today, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about one of our favorite projects. Now, this is a 2-hour case study that I'm going to cram into the next 2 minutes, so bear with me. For our initial anchor build out, we deployed into about 5,000 NYCHA homes in 2021 over the course of 3 months. This was spurred by the 2020 RFEI that was put out by the city. And for those of you ISP folks who have been trying to deploy into NYCHA and build new infrastructure, we believe that this is warp speed for these kind of projects. The project itself for us had 2 extremely positive vectors of growth. 100% of our fiber to the home installations were completed by technicians that we trained and workforce developed with other local community organizations who had never done any fiber work before. And so we think that that's a model we can scale across plenty of other projects. The second big number that we feel a lot of pride about is that about 20% of our subscribers in this footprint are signing up for their first ever home internet connection. And we think that that's proof that these type of programs do work. We couldn't have done any of this without leaning on the NYCHA tenant associations or the local community-based organizations. In fact, about 50% of our ECP onboarding of our subscribers happened at local community organization sites with a Flume and local CBO employee working hand. In addition, we had to spend a lot of time investing in digital equity and onboarding. This means multilingual support, as well as even creating email domains for our subscribers so that they could sign up for the ACP process. One of our biggest challenges has been around ACP uptake, and we continue to lean on folks to help us raise awareness from subscribers. Ever since the EBB to ACP transition, we also do see customers sort of ping-ponging back and forth and using the benefit for LTE. And these are all challenges we think we can solve shortly. The project itself for us is a great economic success and continues to be as we have uptake and growth. We believe that with the impending BEAD funding, the barriers to entry for bringing in more options for New Yorkers will be solved, and that more and more of these projects can flourish across the state. Thank you all.
Thank you, Prashant. And next we'll hear from Verizon.
Good afternoon. My name is Tavanya Davis, and I'm Regional Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy at Verizon. This is an exciting time for New York State, having over $1 billion of funding to be able to finally connect everyone who's been unconnected for so long. And Verizon has deep-rooted connections within New York State, from Montauk to Buffalo. We have over 100 years experience in terms of building the best-in-class networks. And particularly for New York City, we're the only provider that has a robust wireless as well as wireline network. In fact, we are 100% built in all NYCHA developments across the 5 boroughs. So given last year's launch of the ACP program, which you guys have heard a lot about today, this allows every resident within NYCHA to have free broadband within Verizon services. What we provide is upload and download speeds at 300 over 300 megabits per services. And we also provide no annual contracts, no hidden fees, as well as no data caps. So currently, the ACP adoption rate is hovering around 40%, which means that there are a lot of people out there that are eligible for this benefit and still not taking advantage. On the screen, I put a QR code up where you can scan on your phone and get the sign-up process going, because we need to have those enrollment numbers go higher. At Verizon, we are committed to raising awareness on the ACP. Over the last year, we've done over 150 events across the 5 boroughs, which includes partnerships with NYCHA developments, as well as food pantries and senior centers. The strategy was simple. We just wanted to meet people where they were at. And certainly, we heard earlier today from some partners that we work with, including the New York Public Library, as well as Oates. But even with these successes, there's still more work to be done. From the work that we've done in terms of reaching out with communities, when we reach a person who's unconnected to broadband and has never been connected to broadband, it's rarely an issue of availability. And certainly with the ACP program, it's no longer an issue of affordability. It's more practicality. So if you've never had broadband before in your home, what's the chance that you have a laptop or a tablet? Very unlikely, and Senator Parker raised this. We agree with him. We believe that the lack of training in devices in homes is a major reason why many New Yorkers are remaining unconnected. And to that end, ultimately, when we're talking about the importance behind broadband, we can make no mistake about it. When we talk about the importance to the city's overall economic development, we're talking about a New Yorker's ability to remote learn, to remote work, to be involved in telehealth. And so it's important just to remember that the internet connection is not the sole solution because of these all other factors that are so important. So to move the needle forward, Verizon is committed to our work on digital equity and education. And we look forward to working with the ConnectALL office and forming public and private partnerships that's going to ensure that this historic amount of funding is going to ultimately solve the goal for all of us, which I believe is to make sure every New Yorker is going to be connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Tavania. And now we'll hear from New York Public Library.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everyone. It's interesting. I was getting out the car today and I put my NYPL wireless hat on, and I'm joined by my director of strategy. I said, why are you wearing that? So I just wanted to see the reaction of everybody. And I was looking at some of my colleagues who are joining the panel, like NYPL and wireless. Oh, what's the library doing in this space? Well, exactly that. In the previous panel, a lot of my colleagues from NYPL, QPL, and Brooklyn talked about some of the issues that we saw after the lockdown. People coming to the libraries trying to get a Wi-Fi bleed. And all of our presidents were wondering, how do we get the service that we provide in our libraries further out into the communities? And so I was having a conversation with my peers in Brooklyn and Queens, and they said, well, they're going to go ahead with the Wi-Fi antennas to try to make that stronger. We decided to look at a new technology that's in the cellular space called private LTE or CBRS. And we decided to be able to operate in that space. We set up antennas on 5 of our libraries, broadcast that into the neighborhoods in controlled territories, provided networking kits so people were able to come and get Chromebooks and something similar to a Wi-Fi router, take it home, plug it up, and connect to our service. So we did it as a pilot just to be able to determine whether or not it would work. We found that under the right circumstances, we're able to broadcast this reliably. So phase 1 was a success. We're looking at now phase 2, which is to partner with organizations like my colleagues over there at CTNY, Silicon Harlem, and others to actually connect our antennas to affordable housing buildings and actually broadcast the signal directly in those buildings so that New Yorkers won't necessarily have any barriers or obstacles, whether regarding their device, if it's a laptop or a phone. They should be able to see the NYPL wireless signal and get onto it. We're not a direct competitor to the other folks on the panel, primarily because we're even looking to get some of them to use our roofs to broadcast the signal. But we think we're in a space where some of our colleagues talked about issues of privacy. So we don't collect your data. We're not going to give it to anybody. That's just how we roll. We're about collaboration. We're a 125-year-old organization. We do networking. We obviously are into the wireless space, and I think we and the private industry can work together to actually come up with a solution once and for all to a problem that, as many people are saying, it should be a right just to have this, and we're trying to do our part. Thank you.